call. President Lalonahara, Vice President Chaput here. Excuse. Treasurer Battisti, Chief Justice Wu, Senator Ahmed, Senator Candela, Senator Cortez, Senator Fisher, Senator Velez, absent. Senator Zapata, Advisor Argiani, Advisor Wadsworth, excused, will be late. Webb, CFB, Wildcat Media, Wildcat Esports is going to be late. SAC, absent. Reslife, excused, I believe. Yes. Okay. Moving on to the approval of minutes and agenda, starting off with the agenda for today. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, does anyone disapprove of unanimous consent? All right, that passes by unanimous consent. Moving on to the minutes for May 7th, 2025. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, does anyone disapprove of unanimous consent of the minutes for May 7th, 2025? Seeing no disapproval, that passes by unanimous consent. Moving on to the minutes of last week, 8/28/2025. Is there any discussion on last week's minutes? Of course. Yeah. All right. Continue. President report. Hello, everyone. As you know, elections are still going on. Um, I would ask that anyone who does want to apply for candidacy to do that during the open forum of this meeting. It'll be going on until the 11th, and at that point, your last chance to announce candidacy, and then we will go into the actual voting for the election. Uh, Besides that, as you can see on the agenda, I've been working with some of the different orgs policies. Not all of them are all ready yet to be submitted to the Senate, but we're starting today with CFB. I yield. Moving on to Treasurer Battisti's report.
Our advisors said September 12th for the deadline, something along those lines, as well as if any upcoming senators have any interest in budget committees, just let me know.
All right. Secretary report is excused. Chief Justice Wu. Supervisor Wadsworth.
I yield.
Alrighty. Moving on to committee reports. There are no committee reports. Moving on to organizational reports, starting with Webb.
Such a fun time kicking things back off again this semester. We have had such great attendance and hope to keep it going through the rest of the semester. Tonight we have our first night of free bowling at Kingpin Lanes from 10:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. If you check our Instagram or engage, there'll be more information. And going into next week, we have on 9/8 our laser signs event in the SC lobby from 11 to 1. Tie-dye t-shirts on 9/12 from 12 to 2 in the SC lobby. And then we have our first free movie date coming up at Rome Cinemas. We've got the Demon Slayer movie from the 12th through the 14th. And then one last reminder, Web is still hiring. It closes on the 8th, and decisions will be made on the 11th. So I yield.
All right, CFB.
Once we've just finished our hiring process, so our board is almost completely full. And then, as some of you may know, we are also updating our policies today during this meeting. So hopefully, it should all go to plan.
All right, Wildcat Media.
The room is not projecting the mics, but still where the mics as the audio is still going in through the live stream. Wildcat Media is still hiring and applications are still open till Tuesday the 9th. If you do not get your interview in by the end of Tuesday the 9th, you will not get a position. Results will come out Wednesday the 10th morning. I yield.
Wildcat Esports.
Hello. Wildcat Esports is going well so far. In addition to my report last week, we're going through tryouts. It's running smoothly. The arena is more operational than it was before, and we're also working on with other organizations and stuff like that to help provide our equipment for their events as well. And I think that's all. I yield.
Alrighty, that concludes organizational reports. Moving on to old business, there is no old business. Moving on to new business, Bill 2526-01, Senator Fisher. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Senator Cortez.
We, the Senate, we, the members of the Student Government Utica, SUNY Poly, as represented in the Senate, do hereby enact as follows: to create a process within SGU policies and procedures that allow minor editorial updates to be made without full Senate legislation, improving document maintenance and accuracy. I yield.
Alrighty, moving on to discussion of the bill. Is there any discussion? Senator Fisher.
We did talk about this last week. I don't see the change in there. Are we going to make it so that obviously it's going to be available to all the public to see all the changes we make? To make it so that all members of SGU can have the right to review. I don't know. I didn't see that in there. I yield to President. I missed your last.
Three, all editorial changes must be logged in a publicly accessible change log, which will be on Engage, maintained by the Secretary with the following information. Engage is a public platform for everybody, so I yield.
Senator Fisher.
That answers my first question. The second one was, did we make it so that all members of SGU have the right to review them? And that it states in that bring it up to your Senate representative, like we said last meeting. I yield.
President Lonaharo.
What do you mean by members of SGU? By publicly accessible, the whole, every student has access to it already. I yield.
While Senator Fisher is working on finding that, is there any other discussion? Senator Candela.
Position you're putting it in, would it not be better to put it in House rules than Section 16 point whatever it's in? What section are you in? Better to put it in
Nahara, would you like to answer that?
Would it would it not be a better idea to put this in something like house rules compared to putting it in section 16.6.4 and 16.6.5?
We could review it and see how it could be beneficial. I yield.
Point of information to the advisors. Article 16 is the enactment and jurisdiction of the general policies and procedures as a whole, correct? All right. Is there any other discussion? Senator Velez. Point of information, could you clarify? So, to answer your question, while we do have house rules covering for small errors like typos and stuff, repeated like sections within policy is not covered by that, as some of them are repeated, but some of them are repeated with added measures. Uh, Advisor Wadsworth.
Completely understand where you might be coming from because it does kind of feel that way. But if you're trying to create a policy about how to go about an editorial amendment, it should fall under your policies instead of House rules based on, it's not really from Robert's rules, is what House rules is supposed to be. So, I yield.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Senator Fisher.
A change we can make in the week from now to when we vote on it.
So is that a point of clarity you're asking?
Clarity, yes.
All right. So as this is the first week that this is being introduced, technically since it was tabled back to the author last week, we're not voting on this week. Amendments can be made to all sections of the bill as per your right as senators to make amendments and motions and such. So if you would like to see a change within this, make a motion. I yield. Senator Candela.
Does the bill state at which the changes would be shown on Engage? Because if it's just you change one thing and people are looking through from change to change, but they don't know exactly where to look,
So
it would be kind of difficult for someone outside of SG meetings, is what I'm trying to say.
President Lil Nahara.
Asking like in which file is it gonna be in?
I'm asking at which, if there's if we're easily if we're gonna make an easy way for someone outside of SGU to see the changes made, that are because if you didn't have like a distinction between the changes, you would have to like read each one like the previous version and the version just uploaded, and have to read each page to see what was changed, or you would have to go and watch these, and not many people go and watch the Senate meetings. I yield.
President Lil Nahara, you can respond.
So from my understanding of your question, you're assuming that we're just gonna change the policies and not have like somewhere that states what the changes were made?
Kind of like it says that they have to be told to the Senate if it's changed during Senate meetings, but not everyone outside.
Who?
I yield.
Oh, continue.
The policy says that the secretary has to like note changes in Senate meetings, but if someone doesn't like wants to look at the bill and see changes outside of Senate meetings, and like just doesn't want to look at the video or just like doesn't know about the videos, there's no easy way for them to find the changes. I yield.
So point of clarity, are you saying for this bill the changes?
No, I'm saying
Because you did
I'm
state bill.
I'm saying in the policies.
So like, the bill allows you to change things in the policies.
Mm-hmm.
And say there's someone who can't make it to this meeting or doesn't know about the videos for these meetings, they won't know what the changes are unless they read the entire policies 2 times. Because they will have to read the previous version that wasn't changed and the changed version. Because there's no distinction when you're posting it to court.
Yes.
I think that the goal of the bill is to make like almost an Excel sheet of the changes that were made by the secretary. Is that the intention? I think that's what you're wondering is there going to be a way to see each individual change?
Yeah.
Or is the intention of the bill to be you get rid of the old policies that were changed and put up the new ones with the changes made by the secretary? I'm going to yield back to the president, but I think that might have been. Okay.
So it's mentioned in a change log where there will be the date of the change, the section edited, the brief description of the correction, and the signature of secretary and policing committee. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah. Will that change log also be uploaded to Quirk?
Yes.
Okay. That's my question. Yes.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Velez.
Expand on that.
So by brief description, it's essentially the description of the correction, like what we changed.
But will it cover like the reason you changed it, why, how, and then the result? The same way we introduce resolutions and bills. You know, easy to follow paragraph format.
Considering it's mostly minimal and nothing changes, it should be straightforward what the meaning was.
Senator Fisher.
Be like, change this line from this in this part of the policies to this in this part. I don't want to give like an example. Change like, I don't know, a few words to this so it sounds better. I think the reason, if we want to add the reason, would be in a different section of that note. I yield.
President Lilo-Naharo.
So I think just to answer Senator Velez's question, there's going to be a date of change, a section edited, and a description of the correction, which basically explains why we changed it. I yield.
CFB.
Who wrote the change? Is that not going to be recorded? Are the changes going to be anonymous? Am I misreading it? Because there's no name of the person that changed it.
Webb.
Signature of the secretary, like, or would that be like you? Isn't the secretary the one that would have to change it anyways?
So I'm going to point of
Ideal.
clarity. 16.6.0 does state the SGU secretary, in coordination with policy committee chair and SGU advisor, shall have the authority to make the minor editorial changes. So the changes will be made by the secretary. Senator Candela.
Exclude the person who maybe suggested it, depending on how big of a change. Or
Is that a motion, or are you just stating?
I was just wondering if it would. I could motion that. I yield.
President Lilo-Naharo.
So what exactly do you mean by how big of a change? Because these are all going to be minor and editorial
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm diving too deep. I
Alright.
yield.
Is there any further discussion? See, yes, Chief Justice Wu.
I don't know if it was already mentioned, but is the secretary mentioning this during their report? Like when they give executive reports, are they going to say, hey, this is what I did? Okay.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Wildcat Media.
Secretary must say this in their report. I yield to Chief Justice Wu.
In section 6 miscellaneous, the secretary must log all changes and present them to the Senate at the next regular meeting. I yield.
Senator Fisher.
On 16-6-4, the SGU secretary must include editorial changes in the report to the Senate at the next regular meeting, and members may motion for review. I yield.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will move on to to the next bill, as this bill cannot be voted on until next week. So, moving on to Bill 2526-02, Senator Fisher.
Senate Bill number 2526-02.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Cortez. You may continue.
We, the members of the student government at Utica Student Party, as represented in the Senate, do hereby enact as follows. The purpose of this bill is to better update the bylaws to better fulfill CFB operations, add an additional stipend position to better manage the workload of the organization in order to better align to the values and requirements necessary for the organization. I yield.
All right. Is there any discussion? President Lilonaharo.
I would like to mark this bill for immediate action, as so that CFB could start hiring their second secretary and get started up this year early with their extra funding and anything else that the policy change would help.
Point of clarity to the advisors. Does that require a second? Okay. So then, it is marked for immediate action. This will be voted on today. Is there any further discussion? Webb. The bill.
Your CFB line that you're adding a second secretary. It just says still secretary. I think you need to make that editorial change to say two. I yield.
Point of clarity. Are you stating based on the image that's provided
Yeah.
for? So I can answer this question.
Okay.
That is just the current, what's currently listed, so that you know a price for the secretary position currently. That is not like the updated looking
Thank you.
budget. That is just the currently allocated budget. Is there any further discussion? Senator Fisher. Two dash 0.
Secretaries is spelled wrong.
Anyways, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Senator Cortez. Moving to discussion on the motion to amend secretary to secretaries. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's misspelled.
Okay, moving into discussion. CFB, you can start.
Stout. It's strict. There's a strike
No,
through.
there's not. No. You need to do it in a different,
All right. Seeing as the Y is already crossed out, I will not hear this motion.
I ever send.
So, just don't even got to worry about it until next week. But it'll pass.
All right.
When it does pass, that's
I would
someone
like
else's
to ask
problem.
this side conversation, please. Thank you. Our audience member.
In section 3.1.0, you have removed, first of all, the wording is kind of non-clear. It doesn't really make sense once you remove that. But what is your plan to allocate funds? What is your, desired, protocol for that? How are you looking at a club and going to give them funds? Because previously, this is just talking about general allocation of funds. Previously, if you guys ran out of your line for activation funding, it was on a first come, first served basis. So if the authors could speak on that a little.
CFB.
$1,000 in our extra funding request, and if we're on a first come first served basis, the first person that's Wildcat that requests the entire amount can take a fifth of my budget away from every other club. So first come first served is just not feasible with the amount of clubs and the amount of money each club can actually request. And for the procedure of actually allocating the funds to these clubs, what we did last year was we met with every single club separately, and they told us what their plans are with the funds, and we weren't super picky as long as it remained in financial policy and it pertains to the club, but as long as it's basically not way out there, I know that's not the most specific I can do, but as long as it's within policy and it's going to be used for their club, it'll most likely get approved.
disabling the clubs to move quickly and create progress in a sense.
Super.
So right above that, and sorry, right below it in 3.5.0, we only have 14 days to give you an answer. So you will get an answer within 2 weeks of putting it out there. I am required by my policies to give you an answer. So we can't sit back and do nothing. You will have to receive an answer, and that's kind of my answer is you will not be waiting any more than 14 days.
But so by removing first come first serve, I mean I get that the previous policy was not saying that it had to be approved because again it's still subject to approval. But I feel like the idea of first come first serve kind of puts out the concept to the clubs that they should, if they want to mobilize and get something done that semester that uses a large sum of money, that they should be moving quickly and efficiently in order to get this done so that these ideas might come to the table early enough on. Because if a club submits a request and you go into review and deny it, I mean, what's to say that the reason you denied it was because you're sitting there waiting for a sunnier day in the future where another club brings something along that's more interesting or more aligning to your, organization's, ideals. I yield back.
Super.
So I get what you're saying, but the idea is that we don't want people to rush into their extra funding requests with the first come first. So again, you will always get an answer within 14 days. I can't sit back and wait, but the reason that we have removed it is because some clubs aren't active the full year, which I know is not sound great, but it's just because they're seasonal clubs. Like the ski club, they're not active in the spring because, well, there's no snow. So if we go by the first come first serve, huh? Oh, I'm at the fall. I'm sorry. But it's kind of just the first come first serve is when we run out of money, yes, we run out of money. There's not much, but it's just kind of an over the top clarification because I will not, the chances of us denying waiting for something else, I don't see happening. I mean, again, I know you'd want it written down, which I understand, but just with this sheer amount of clubs and budget, first come first serve just does not seem appropriate for allocating the funds.
Point of clarification. Did you say what club you were from?
I'm from design and development.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Our advisor.
This was a very large discussion that was had last semester about reason or first come first serve basis. Um, and it ended up becoming and for both reasons. One, because you want it by reason. You don't want somebody coming in and saying, we have $7,500 to go to Hawaii. I don't know. So that's why it was reason, but it was also first come first serve for that reason. So I do think that there is opportunity for it to be both. If somebody comes to you the first day of classes and says, I want $7,500 for Hawaii, you have the reason in there as well to say, well, just because you got here first doesn't mean that you get the money, right? We all know that. CFD goes through their process. So maybe there is room to keep it for both because you still have the reason aspect behind it. So it brings up a lot of really good points. But something for the Senate to think about and possibly make that motion, make that change. So I'll yield.
Our audience member.
So I'm up here for like basically what Bailey just said. We changed it last semester, the first come first serve and reason because the fact that one of the big feels that we, the Senate, had last semester was that reason could be used to monopolize the extra funding for specific clubs such as Baja or robotics or other super expensive clubs, and CFD could say, oh, by reason, where they could come up with
CFP.
So I do get the concern that it can happen that technically the board, I'm not saying this will happen because, you know, I don't plan on it happening, but it, I do understand the concern there, but we do have an appeals process. So if you think that we're making up a reason or we're doing something wrong with your extra funding and we denied it for no reason, you would go over CFB and you would appeal to the Senate instead of me. So there is an appeals process. So if you think that I would not, you know what I mean? If you think that my board and I made a decision that was not fair, just straight up wrong in your eyes, or I'm blanking on the word, biased towards another club, you have the ability to appeal it above us.
Is there any further discussion? President Olonahara.
In addition to support CFB's point, they did swear in where they would say they would be unbiased and will be fair to everybody at SUNY Poly. So I hope that answers it. Thank you.
I guess not to shut down the swear-ins as someone who was sworn in multiple times, but people don't have to follow the swear-ins. We've had that. I mean, yes, it leads to strike if you don't follow the swear-ins, but we've had issues in the past with SU members not following the swear-ins, such as, I don't know who did it, but an SU member in the past who ordered like super fancy sports jackets for him and his friends in SGU and used the SGU funding for that instead of using it for students. Or last semester when diversity events was going to be cut to support the SGU Breakfast Club that was only used by SGU, even though that wasn't saying the people who voted for that or wanted that are doing it out of corrupt, but there is the chance that what you swear in can be broken either on purpose or on accident, and there's not much you can really do about that. So the swear-ins, I guess I'm saying, is not something we can use as a defense of this won't happen because we swore we wouldn't, is what I'm trying to say.
Before we continue discussion, is there anything new to add to this conversation as we've been going into a cyclic motion? All right. Then we'll continue on discussion past this point, as this point has been thoroughly exhausted. Is there any further discussion? Senator Velez. CFB.
Every club has various amounts of forms and documents that they have to submit to us, and there is we're nearing 40, going over 40 clubs, and by contract, the secretary is the one responsible for every single piece of paper and form that gets submitted and marking it down. And they're limited to 8 hours a week because they're still RA eligible, and it's almost impossible for us to completely finish and go through extra funding on top of meeting minutes, on top of events, on top of community service, and on top of fundraisers within a reasonable amount of time. So the second secretary is to add more support to the CFB to help expand our ability to service the clubs.
Chief Justice Wu.
And why are the other executive members of CFP, do they take on a role that is completely different from that? Can they not try to help you in your duties?
CFP.
So they can help, and that's what we did last year, but we were still swamped because we have clubs reaching out to us every day on top of maintaining a spreadsheet, on top of this business meetings, on top of being here. It's just, we have so many things in our scope that we have to keep track of. The 4 people that cover 40 clubs, technically that's 1 person per 10 clubs, and each of those has their own set of problems, paperwork, and events that we have to keep track of. So having only 4 people on an executive board to help manage everybody it's doable, but it is very hard to do in a timely manner, especially that we have constraints in our policy when we have to respond. So being able to make sure that we can stay up to date with the requests of clubs and our paperwork that we need to do ourselves is the reason behind it.
Webb.
Real quick, in the secretary contract below, if you read the second sentence, as a member of both the student government at Utica and the C funding board, I think you might want to change that to be club funding board instead of just C. I yield.
I'd like to ask the Senate for a motion to amend this. So moved. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Condello. We're in the motion to amend this to CFB.
Can I just point of
Yes.
order? I think if this was a screenshot, that it might have just gotten cut off.
All right, I
Because
rescind my motion.
student and everything else was cut off. So I think you
Gotcha.
probably could just go with House rules for that.
All right. Then we'll continue back into discussion. Our audience member.
I'm just coming at this as the CFB secretary of the academic year of 2023 to 2024. And I know part of the issues I faced with this was that the prior administration didn't update any documents, so we were working with the academic year of 2021 to 2022 documentation, which probably made things worse. But when I was CFB secretary, I was spending like 30 hours a week, which is like way more than I should have been, on just updating CFB documentation because it was so out of date, and also so much work with having to file extra funding requests, and also doing CFB meeting attendance and meeting minutes and all of that. So at least for me, it was way too much work, especially also with my senior year classes. So at least I wish I had a second secretary when I was CFB secretary, because for me it was too much work. And that's all. So I think CFB secretary.
Treasurer Battisti.
Branch off that a little bit. So the SGU special projects line, which is where we're taking from, was cut in half this most recent year. We're trying to get rid of all the impromptu events. It'll leave us with about 1,850 left for the entire year. Realistically, I don't think much of this money would have been allocated regardless of whether this gets passed or not. And so I think it's just looking at how we're using our resources, and is this the best decision for it? I yield.
Is there any further? Senator Velez.
Roles for each one, like Secretary 1, Secretary 2, or will they have the same obligations and they figure it out within amongst each other? I yield to CFB.
In our own staff meeting to figure out which one is responsible for which portion of the actual forms we have to intake. So I feel like trying to describe them now would lead to constraints of who's better at what and who would, working within our team, I feel like it would be easier if we could just handle it within our own team instead of contract.
All right. Is there any further discussion for this bill? Audience member. So point of information, we did in the last budget cut the line that would allow for clubs to be funded by SGU, so through the SGU is a no.
So, in that same sense, in the past 2 years, I guess, go back a year, 2 years, there used to be a lot of talk of CFB asking for club budgets, which I think is fully attainable, even if you are a club that's only a ski club, not starting immediately. I think this would help clear that up a lot, because in the past what we were looking at was getting more money for clubs and trying harder at that and being able to fund bigger things as everything gets more expensive. Clubs like Baja, who used to be, back when they were super active, they were asking for $10,000 every year. We're now down to what, 8,500? What was the activity? Yeah, we're down to 8,500. So we're actually cutting that even more. So I yield.
CFB.
Issue that I'm very well aware of because it was a big thing last year during the budget, but we were not prepared to have such a big incoming class, so we had to make budget cuts, and unfortunately, it's just they came out of some of them came out of our line. We did have an overall budget increase within the activation levels because the activation funding also increased along with the number of clubs. And I'm going to be working very hard to try to get as much done for these clubs as possible, but I do understand the frustration with the decrease of funding and the no longer having the ability to go to SGU. I yield.
Audience member, I'll have just to let you know I'm apologizing, but our house rules allows you only 2 minutes of speak per discussion of any bill resolution. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to ask you to sit back down.
I just came up because I know this is a bit off topic. I mean, it's for this bill, but some
Oh
of you
wait,
guys realized was kind of
point of order. I'm sorry, you've also exhausted your 2 minutes. I apologize. Treasurer Battisti.
Activations. The idea behind that was clubs get activated at a higher level, so they don't have to request so much from CFB. Depending on the club that it is, it doesn't always work out that way, but that was kind of the idea behind it. I yield.
Senator Fisher.
I'm also staying correct. Isn't there now a new policy where everyone has to pay all of their fees? So that means everyone, even if you're online, you have to pay your student activities fee, which wouldn't that mean eventually at next year you would have an increase in budget?
I'm going to target this to
I
the
yield.
advisors.
There's now, is it referred to as a broad-based fee system? So online students are able to waive their fee if they go through a committee. And if they go through the committee and the committee agrees that they can waive the fee, it waives all fees in one. So no, not individually are they able to waive their student activity fee anymore. But in regards to the budget that you're referring to, SGU did see the money that came in from the increase in enrollment, but I'm not sure. I believe it went to reserves after what you had budgeted for. So next year, we would go based off of whatever the registrar tells us to expect for next year. We would go based off of that. So can we look at reorganizing some funds for next year's budget? Absolutely. But for this year, CFB is kind of where they are. I'm going to yield to Senator Fisher.
We still have a reserves poll, correct? This year?
Our advisor.
A reserves poll could occur. It doesn't have to. It can be once a year, and it can be whenever it's deemed appropriate.
Yeah, I yield.
Alrighty. Is there any further discussion? Senator Velez.
I yield to
The budget committee, typically.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right. I'll allow it. Do we have a motion to continue to entertain a motion to what is the motion for? All right. We have the asked for a motion to either add in a change or to just take this off of immediate action. We have so moved and seconded by.
do it different. Just table the whole thing back to author.
Then we're gonna wait on that.
Yeah.
We have a so moved. Do we have a second from a senator? Seconded by Senator Zapata. Okay. We are currently in the discussion of the motion to table this back or add a change to, remove from immediate action, sorry, or add a change so that there's clarification on how the allocation of funds for clubs within CFBs works. First of all, I'm going to ask that this is a division of question because we have both a motion to either take this off immediate action and a motion to change how the funds are allocated. We're going to start with taking this off of immediate action. So moving into discussion on taking this off of immediate action, is there any discussion? CFB.
Or ask that we do not, because we have a lot of clubs that have been asking to get ready to start doing their extra funding so they can start their events and do what they want to do. And delaying this will just delay their chances of getting funding faster due to us not having the resources to go through everything. I yield.
Senator Velez.
I think this is pretty extra, not gonna lie, because not only did it balance, our treasurer specified that we balanced out activation fee to where we cut, as well as also just took a really long time, and it would just push it back further, and you'll wait for money even more if we have to go through this again next week and then the week after and however long it takes. So
Senator Fisher.
The one who motioned it.
All right, we have a rescission of that part of the question. So moving on to the section of the question on either providing a alternative source for where these funds for clubs to go to for funding, or a rewording of the current way that is presented within these policies. Is there any discussion or presented formats by the Senate? Our advisor.
Our treasurer, where would you, if the Senate wanted to move forward with an alternate form of funding or an alternate avenue of funding, do you think that there's adequate funding somewhere, and where do you think that could come from? I'm going to yield to the treasurer.
You're gonna have to give me a minute on finding specifically where else we could take from. I do think the special projects line makes the most sense. We've historically not used it very much. We're cutting it very significantly. I don't see any reason not to. I yield, sir.
So point of information to the audience, our current line for special projects is $2,500. Along with this bill is asking for $650 to be taken out. So if it is passed, and along with any changes that are made, you'd only be working with, what was it, 1,800, correct?
1850.
So you'd be working with 1,850 to be requested from SGU if that is the line we're taking out of. Our Chief Justice Wu.
I have to ask CFB, if we were to cut this bill in half and just keep the part about the secretary, would you be able to go forth with having, like, employing and electing more people and stuff, and then we could table back some of the more controversial parts to another day?
CFB.
So we can. I wouldn't be necessarily entirely opposed because these do directly affect the clubs, and if they feel that it's not adequate in providing for them, I am willing to cut this piece and revisit it another week, but I at the least would request that we keep the second secretary so I can continue with my hiring.
Okay.
All right. Is there any further discussion or any suggestions for adding a alternative payment line?
we call another motion to amend, or just can we decide to remove the immediate action first?
That
and
has already
then-
been rescinded.
That's already been.
We're currently discussing alternative methods for
Okay.
payment if SGU will be taking out of the extra expenses line or not is the only suggested one, so that is currently what we're on. Is there any further discussion or other suggestions? Seeing none, the vote will now be on if SGU will be taking out of the extra funding line, which is $1,850, to be allowing clubs to request for, as that is the only presented suggestion made. So, for the senators, does everyone understand what we're voting on right now? Okay. All those in favor of allowing the $1,850 after, if this bill is passed? Yes.
Order. I think I'm just lost. Can
Okay.
somebody please clarify? So we are motioning to let clubs pull from special projects.
So the motion was in the sense of, I apologize. I have read Robert's rules. However, I don't know the exact terminology, but the motion was in a sense that is a blank request, meaning they fill in the suggestion. And then if you have the set of suggestions, you vote on each one individually. Whichever one gains the most amount of votes is the one that is then presented. So only one suggestion was made, which was taking out of the line, meaning this is the only one we are voting on as no other suggestions have been made.
But this won't put it into effect. Like voting on this, will it put it into effect?
Voting on this will add it to this bill.
Okay.
It's a
I
bit
yield.
weird. CFB. If they approve it, SGU will have the extra expenses line allowable to have clubs request from.
Then I'm going to have to request that this motion gets denied for now. I know I can't. I did not know that, but that's cool. But I'm going to have to ask that because if it's too spontaneous to add that level of policy changes, right on the Senate floor. So I am very willing to revisit this. I will meet with clubs if they want. I will do whatever they deem necessary to be happy with the policies. But as of right now, I have to ask that it's denied.
Senator Blas.
Meant like the funding and everything, those parts, just table it back. They can decide, and behind the scenes, and then we'll just vote on secretary on then having a second secretary position at least before we decide the money.
So you can't make a motion in a motion.
Correct.
Suggestion, any like still.
We're currently still in the motion, just discussion. The current thing that has been suggested, only one suggestion has been made, so that would be what we're voting on. Senator Fisher. You rescind your second motion. Okay, so then that's the current motion rescinded, meaning that we're back into the bill at hand. Senator Velez.
I'd like to run back my motion again. I'm not repeating. I think just
is the motion to table back.
Table the section about funding, money, cut and table, and then we just vote on having a second secretary for now and then. Everything else gets figured out later.
Okay, no, I'm gonna need you to clarify what you're saying.
I see the issue at hand here is money, right? At least that's what the general summary of what we've been arguing about here, debating. We're just trying to have them have another secretary so that they could start getting the manpower in. So that's what.
Denny, I think he's looking for what you
what
actually
what
want.
bullet point?
What your motion is.
I think I will pass that on to Matthew Fisher here.
Okay.
I think that's for later discussion, actually.
So, as it currently stands, the current line is 250, correct? This bill has not been passed, therefore no money has been taken out of it. If this bill is passed, then 650 gets taken out of it, and you'll have 1850 left over. Since the motion was rescinded by Matthew, there is no motion to add that as a line that clubs can take out of. So as it currently stands, clubs cannot take out of that line. Senator Fisher.
For the motion I'm about to make.
I'll ask as a point of privilege that you give a time limit. Okay, we have a motion to recess for 1 minute. Is there a second? Second by Senator Ahmed. Okay, going into a vote on
say the line.
Going into a vote on recessing for 1 minute as this is non-discuss. Oh wait, no. Is there any amendments to this motion? Seeing no amendments, we go immediately in as there's no discussion. All those in favor of recessing for 1 minute, raise your hand. All those opposed? All those who abstain? Okay, that